New Media's Mining Weekly Online is speaking to Stephen Roper. Stephen, integrated thinking, it's becoming a buzzword. How do we use this thinking to help the South African economy?
It's about understanding the connectedness between things and the consequences of that connectedness over time. The interesting thing is that the overtime consequences are often so counterintuitive to what we expect when we just think in the traditional narrow way of what is called often silo thinking. So the idea behind Integrated Thinking Laboratory, it's a business which is positioned to make a contribution to implementing integrated thinking, and the route in which we've chosen to do that, the strategic positioning, is of the company as an authorized financial services provider. So through that means we aim to make a contribution to companies' long-term success.
What should be done in an integrated fashion to help a startup that might be a contract miner with heavy equipment, a lot of big capital that they have to look into? How could integrated thinking help such a company?
There are four main objectives that we would like to achieve. One is that the business be managed as a long-term investment. It's a completely different mindset to what generally prevails. Another is managing risk in an integrated manner in order to contribute to long-term success. It's a different mindset that is needed in how we think about risk. A third dimension is how capital gets allocated. That is often regarded, and I think Warren Buffett has referred to it as the most onerous responsibility of management, is how capital gets allocated. We've interviewed a number of managements of companies. It may be quite sobering for you to hear that very few companies have the tools that they need. Very few companies. And so what we would be, as we would move beyond just being a financial services provider where we would like to start making a difference, is in building what we would call a dynamic simulation model, where you can actually look at alternatives, evaluate options, to try and deal with this problem of allocating capital optimally. So there are tools and techniques, but the reality is very few of them are used.
Do you think that if people use this integrated thinking, there will be a lot more long-term success of companies?
One of the key causes of failure of businesses is mindset, is how they think about what they do. And it's often a very, I've seen it in a number of companies that we've spoken of. This is how we do it. And so if your mind is not open to new thinking, new understandings, you're doomed to fail.
What sort of companies are you working with?
We're engaging with a few mining companies. One of the projects that we are working on, it's moved beyond design phase, is the development of this virtual reality of being able to test alternatives and the feasibility of strategies, the valuation of strategies. That's a project that is underway. A lot of this takes another way of thinking about things than what we've been taught. We're working with companies, and something that they're most familiar with a view to working with them over time in a way that contributes to their long-term success.
And how could we be assured that if companies take up this idea of integrated thinking, we will have more success and longer life of companies?
The way in which we've been taught to think about things is you break a problem down into its component parts in order to understand the part. But where the parts actually have something to do with one another, the outcome is not determined by the parts in isolation. The outcome is determined by how the parts interact with each other. And so we would call that emergent behavior. So if I could use an analogy of a car, if for example, a Mercedes-Benz is known to have the best engine, a Lexus is known to have the best gearbox, a BMW is known to have the best steering wheel, and a Ferrari is known to have the best brake system, for example. I clearly don't know a lot about cars. But nevertheless, if you had to take the best of each of those and combine them, would you have the best car?
No, not necessarily.
Indeed. Indeed. Because what matters is how those things interact with one another. That's what produces the outcome. And so it is in business and what we would call social systems. It's just that much more difficult to come to terms with because it's a social system. So that is what integrated thinking is about, is trying to understand those interactions. And there are tools and techniques for doing this. And one of it is our ambition with Integrated Thinking Laboratory to help share that.
That was Creamer Media's Mining Weekly Online, speaking to Stephen Roper, the CEO and founder of Integrated Thinking Laboratory.